some people joining. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chase Good Health Masterclass on the autonomic nervous system. This might be one of the most important masterclasses you ever attend. It might just be the masterclass that saves your life, if you can believe that. This is a really important topic relative to our health and relative to chasing good health, and I'm excited to share it with you. The format of this masterclass is super simple and very casual. I'm going to do a short talk of about 35 minutes, and then we'll have time for Q&A. If you have a question, you can write it into the chat, and I'll make, like, if you think of something in the middle, you're like, oh, I would like to ask that question, write it into the chat, and I will answer them at the end. And then we'll have time for open Q&A at the end as well. So I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. Okay, tonight's masterclass, all about the autonomic nervous system. You might have heard of some components of this nervous system before, which we're going to discuss tonight. And I'm going to show you how you can harness the power of your autonomic nervous system, which is a part of your central nervous system, to either thrive or survive. We can thrive in our health journey. We can get better and better every year, every day, every week, or we can survive in our health journey. And a lot of that depends on your ability to harness the power and control your autonomic nervous system. So here we go. So tonight we're going to be learning about what is this particular nervous system? What is it? We're going to learn how it works in our biology. We're going to learn how it can either help us chase good health or wait on disease or invite disease. And I'm going to teach you some habits that you can practice to regulate your nervous system. These are free, easy. Anyone can do them. Your children, anyone. And so learning to do this, the earlier we learn to do this, the better, because life will always be stressful, right? It's how we respond to that stress that really defines our ability to live vibrantly into every decade and remain disease-free. So we're going to talk about how we can do that. Now, I'm going to start sounding like a broken record. However, this is worth repeating. And so you'll notice that in every masterclass, we start with this very basic premise. At the end, you'll be able to recall it from memory, but it is nearly every health problem we face can be explained by how well our cells in our body create and use energy. That quote is by Dr. Casey Means. She's the author of the book, Good Energy. I can't recommend it enough. She's a Stanford-trained MD who has turned her training into a passion for helping people take charge of their biology and learn how their body works. And remember, from our metabolism masterclass, we have some 40 trillion cells. They each have an energy center in the body, the mitochondria. And if we are able to nourish and give our cells what they need to create and use good energy throughout the body, then our likelihood of facing chronic health issue goes down dramatically. So we're going to come back to this every single time. There are 3 very basic root causes that rob our cells and our cells' ability to create and use good energy. And those things are chronic inflammation. Our cells are scared of something happening inside our body. Mitochondrial dysfunction. When our mitochondria, the little energy factories in each cell, cannot produce energy, take up and energy from the food we eat and create energy for the body, then that is a killer of good energy. And the third, oxidative stress, some sort of damaging molecule in the body that the body cannot remove. And so if we look back to 3 big causes of the number 1 root cause health issue, these are those: chronic inflammation, our energy factories and mitochondria in each cell cannot perform, or there's something in our body, oxidative stress, that's that's keeping our body from being its healthiest. So those three conditions. So I like starting out every training as we learn about our own biology and our physiology, how our body works, with a simple definition, because I just think that's a great starting point. So a component, the autonomic nervous system, is part of the central nervous system, and it regulates those involuntary processes like heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, digestion, sexual arousal, things that we don't control. It contains three distinct divisions: the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and enteric. And if you would like to learn more, you can read the NIH published document there, and you can learn more about these three and how they work. Tonight, we're going to focus on the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. And so those are going to be our area of focus. Our sympathetic nervous system, if you want to think about like SS, is where we're quite literally surviving. Our parasympathetic nervous system is where we're thriving. So an easy way to remember that is SS. So we've got sympathetic S, survive S, and you can kind of equate those two. So disorders of this autonomic nervous system can affect any part of our body. So if this, and I'm going to prove that to you, if we don't have good balance, and we don't have the ability to really influence our nervous system, then we often find ourselves stuck in this sympathetic side, the sympathetic dominance, where we are quite simply just surviving. And that is what I want to help you avoid in this talk tonight. So our sympathetic nervous system is the part of our nervous system where we are surviving. When a distress signal is received from our body, a threat, our brain activates the SNS through our adrenal glands, and SNS, sympathetic nervous system, through our adrenal glands to produce a hormone, epinephrine, which the body converts to adrenaline through our bloodstream. So if we are, look at my little monster there, if we are being chased by a bear, if we are going to try and outrun someone that's chasing us, a monster, etc., we need to do a few things. Our body has a built-in protection mechanism to help us survive. If we are standing with our two young children and a car is coming our direction, we jump into action very quickly, almost involuntarily, without thinking. And our body is very quick. Our brain, our hypothalamus is very quick to make this conversion for us. So it sends the epinephrine, the adrenaline, and we go into action. So things happen. Our heart rate increases, our blood pressure increases, our airways dilate to allow more oxygen, our liver releases glucose into our blood for energy, our hypothalamus pituitary axis comes online, our HPA axis. This keeps that gas pedal of cortisol pressed down. So our adrenal glands are making cortisol. Essentially, you can think about this as like danger. There's an alarm, prepare the troops, like literally get ready for battle. And you can think about the sympathetic nervous system surviving that gas pedal experience, like put the gas pedal down, let's go. And so that's a good way to think about that side of the autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic side, it is our built-in survival mechanism. The other side is the parasympathetic nervous system. This is where we thrive. When the perceived threat passes, the car goes by, thankfully misses us. We've moved our children out of the way. We've escaped the monster. We've escaped the guy in the horror movie. Our cortisol levels fall, stress passes, and our brain, hypothalamus, activates the parasympathetic nervous system so that we can restore balance and harmony in our system. This is the all clear, rest, repair, restore, peace, harmony. When we are in this state of our nervous system, we are doing housekeeping functions like digestion, detoxification, good metabolic health. We are metabolically operating at a healthier place when we are in the parasympathetic side of our nervous system. Remember, the sympathetic side is for survival. The parasympathetic side is for living. It's the break. It restores balance again. So two very distinct sides of our nervous system. I loved this graphic because from time to time in our life, we will be moving between the two nervous systems. We move into the sympathetic nervous system if we have to give a big presentation at work, if our child is doing some big event and we've got all this nervous energy, if we have to escape danger, etc. But then we want to be able to easily shift back into that sort of move that calm, or that letter C right here, from the panic side over, like a sliding scale, back over to the calm parasympathetic nervous system to restore harmony. So this is really good because throughout our lives, there are going to be stressful events. And thank goodness that we have this built-in sympathetic nervous system that our brain can tell our, our HPA axis to jump into battle. It can tell our adrenal glands to produce the cortisol, and we can get moving. And that's amazing. But we also have this very beautiful parasympathetic side that calms everything back down, restores balance and harmony again in our body. The reality is, in our modern world and in our modern lifestyles, that we get stuck in this sympathetic nervous system activation. And when we get stuck there, I want you to think about it, not that we're being chased down by the bear, right? Because in reality, we're not being chased by a bear or a monster in a horror movie. But instead, we've got this chronic, that would be like acute stress. But this is more like a chronic low-level stress that keeps our HPA axis activated. And you could think about it like a motor that's on idle, and you're just kind of pressing the gas pedal. It's just idling too high for too long. It's kind of running under the radar. It's just this chronic low-level stress. But your hypothalamus pituitary axis is still activated. It is telling the adrenal glands, that sort of main control point of the body, to release and produce the cortisol, to create that experience for our body, to create enough energy to have the body be in that state. And after a while of running in this sympathetic dominance, we have an effect on the body that contributes to almost every health problem that's associated with modern disease and the modern diseases of our time. And I always like giving you a place to learn more. So you can click there. You can look at this article written at Harvard, and it is great, very simply written example of how this happens. And so you may be saying, no, not me. I'm not stuck. I don't have a monster chasing me. I'm not in danger. I don't have any sympathetic nervous system dominance. And I love this picture. I have a German Shepherd mix, and she does this. B does this all the time. She's like, when she's trying to understand something I'm saying, or she thinks I'm wrong, she kind of turns her head in that sort of fashion. So I love this picture. But most people say, if I ask them, if you were stuck, you'd say, no, absolutely not. I'm not stuck in this. It is certainly not me. But yes, you probably are. And what I would also share with you, which is a really interesting thing about the body, is your body responds to both real and perceived threats the same way. So your body is going to respond to you rushing, grabbing your children, moving them out of the way of the car that happens to be too close to the sidewalk, and the perceived threat of the experience of running, gunning, carpool, grocery, work, life, deadline, schedules, dinner, bedtime, relationships, modern lifestyle, basically the same way. All of these sort of tasks that we do, checking every box and trying to get dinner ready, get kids to carpool and come back home and clean the house and go to bed and get up early, do a little bit of your job, make the breakfast. It's a constant drain, and our body perceives those stress cues and it responds to that perceived threat the same way. And so you can imagine how, even sometimes without knowing, you are stuck in this sympathetic side of our nervous system. And I also love this graphic because this looks like many of us, if we wanted to put our to-do list on a wall, it might look like something like this. The demands of the conditions around us are often greater than what we believe we can control. And when that happens, we move into this acute stress response, a stress response where we are either in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And you've probably heard of fight or flight. Those are very more widely known. But freeze and fawn are two other very important acute stress responses that the body employs or uses. And to be honest, in my private coaching practice, I see much more of the freeze and fawn than I see of the fight or flight. So the fight response might be that you feel some intense anger. Maybe you're locking your jaw, gritting your teeth. You might notice that you're just holding your jaw really tightly throughout the day. You might glare at someone. Your stomach kind of just feels like it's in knots. The flight response is maybe you excessively exercise. Maybe you're obsessively worried about your health, checking every box. Maybe you're a fidgeter, constantly moving, constantly moving your body, constantly moving, always moving, moving your leg, bouncing your legs, fiddling, fidgeting, always in motion, freezing. Most people, when they fail at fight or flight, and they still can't really overcome that sensation, then they just kind of freeze. And often they have a little bit of a pounding heart. If you stop for a second during the day and your heart's racing, or you just have a sense of dread, you can think, wow, I've entered kind of into this next level of acute stress response called freeze. And then the last one, which I think is the most sinister, and I think it's one that I see quite often, and it is the fawn response, which is after you fail fight, flight, you might have even froze for a couple of situations. You become over helpful. You do anything you can to keep peace, agreement. You could be hyper vigilantly scanning the room. Are you mad at me? Did I say something wrong? Or maybe you send a text message and you think oh my gosh, did somebody receive that the wrong way? You're constantly in the state of hypervigilance. And that is the experience of an acute stress response called fawning. And you can learn more, again, about these four states and how the body responds by clicking that link. And it's also a really good site. So there is a big difference between engaging your body's stress response once to jump out of the way of the car and to handle the stressful event as needed, and staying and living in your stress response system too long. And so this is a very funny video that I'm going to play for you. And so, yeah, it is really, really cute. So just watch. It's about 30 seconds. It doesn't take too long.
Girls, listen carefully. This is the wrapping department.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the candy will pass by on this conveyor belt and continue into the next room where the girls will pack it. Now, your job is to take each piece of candy and wrap it in one of these papers and then put it back on the belt. You understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Let her roll! Let her roll! Well, wait here. Somebody's asleep at the switch.
What are you doing up here? I thought you were downstairs boxing chocolates. Oh, they kicked me out of there fast. Why? I kept pinching them to see what kind they were. The fourth department I've been in. Oh, I didn't do so well either.
All right, girls. Now, this is your last chance. If one piece of candy gets past you and into the packing room unwrapped, you're fired.
Yes, ma'am.
Let her roll!
Oh, this is easier. Yeah, we can handle it, okay?
And so that really cute video of Lucy and Ethel is a good example of what it can feel like when our body's stress response system is activated too long. We're just constantly, it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we don't have a moment to really calm down. And so the experience can start feeling like the candy is it just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. And so without an ability to really calm ourselves back down, hit that break, move over to the parasympathetic nervous system, then you can see how in our modern lifestyles, we can end up staying and living in a low level stress response system. That's just the way we operate. I can tell you personally, I lived several years of my life in that section. I had 3 young kids, well, five years apart, top to bottom. I ran the weekly juicery. Our production kitchen was an hour from my house. So I would get up, I would work there till 9 o'clock at night, come back home, do everything I should have been doing at home all day, wake up super early to see my kids and do it again. It was crazy. And I learned to live in this low level heightened stress response for a long time. And I can tell you, after really spending a few years rebalancing that, I feel better than I ever have. So it is really, really important. Okay. So the body is always seeking balance and harmony within its interconnected system. So that's a really important point. The body is always seeking balance and harmony within the system. And when it detects imbalance, it smartly and intuitively issues a countermeasure to try and restore balance. So as an example, when we are running like Ethel and Lucy in this heightened stress response for our lives, we're spending our life in this low level stress response, our HPA axis, hypothalamus pituitary axis, the control center is in our brain, is telling our adrenal glands, keep up with the cortisol, keep putting it into the bloodstream. There's a stress alert. Keep putting it in because the body is perceiving a stress alert. Keep producing cortisol. Keep producing cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. So when that happens, the liver says, well, I detect a stress hormone. There's a threat. There's stress. I need to release glucose. I need to give the body more fuel. So it pulls glucose from storage and puts it into our bloodstream. And then the pancreas says, oh my, holy smokes, there's too much glucose. I've got to release some insulin to what? Create that balance and restore that harmony. And so then there's insulin in the blood. Then the cells, remember we have 40 trillion of them, and their main job is they pull up glucose and insulin from the bloodstream. And then the mitochondria guys create energy for our body. They detect that there's too much glucose and there's too much insulin. And imagine like somebody rushing under one of those big steel doors that's closing down. They're just barely scooting in. The cell walls, they just close those doors. And they say, we cannot uptake any more glucose and we cannot uptake any more insulin. And so then the liver says, oh my gosh, there's too much glucose and there's too much insulin. And we're still getting a stress response. There's too much cortisol. And so the liver produces more LDL, bad cholesterol, to try and compensate for those high glucose levels in the blood. And then guess what? You go to your doctor, your primary care physician, he's like, you know what? You got high cholesterol. Your lipid panel is terrible. You need a statin drug. And so then the body also says, wow, like, sheesh, we got to have cortisol on the regular all the time. And so it goes to progesterone, which is the hormone used to produce cortisol, and it depletes all the progesterone, which is that calm, cool, collected hormone that balances estrogen. And so next thing you know, we've got this high estrogen number, estrogen dominance. And when we have estrogen dominance, then we've lost that sort of chill hormone of progesterone because it's being all used to produce cortisol to keep up with the stress, right? And so estrogen dominance looks like I have anxiety, I'm feeling uneasy, I want to feel very jumpy and edgy. And then our thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, goes offline. And then the cortisol hormone is used typically to boost our immune system short term, but our levels have been high for so long. And so suddenly our immune system says something is wrong here. There is too much glucose. There's too much insulin. The cells don't produce good energy. Our progesterone and our estrogen is imbalanced. We now, wow, like we've got inflammation in our body. And the next thing you know, the prolonged
There's another master alarm.
the prolonged high cortisol levels create higher levels of oxidative stress in the body. Our body can't, it's busy fighting this inflammation. It can't scour the body for these free radicals and keep oxidative stress down. So it's kind of like every alarm bell starts going off to alert the body that there's an imbalance. And this is a really good video. I love like showing a clip to try and explain what's going on in the body. So imagine what's happening in your body.
No refresh valve.
Maybe it's a quad.
We've got a computer
This is a
restart.
crew of Apollo 13.
Yes, we've got a
When these
baseline.
things fire, it doesn't make any
We've
sense.
got multiple caution and warning, Houston. We've got a reset, restart.
All right, I'm going to SDS.
Like the heart rates are skyrocketing. Econ, what's your data telling you?
O2 tank 2 not reading at all. Tank 1 is at 725 psi and falling. Fuel cells 1 and 3 are oh boy, what's going on here? Flight, let me get back to you. Flight GNC. Flight, they're all over the place. They keep going close to gimbal lock. I keep losing radio signal.
So you see, just like the crew of Apollo 13, when there is that error, when they stir the fuel tanks, alarm bells, master alarms start going off. Alarm bells in the body, when this cortisol hormone, that stress hormone, is continuing to be released because our body feels like it's under too much stress, a whole cascade of things. Alarms are going off all over the place. So the body is trying to restore balance and harmony within the system. It's detecting these imbalances. And so I want to take you back to how we started, and that is that nearly every health problem we face can be explained at its root cause by how well our cells can create and use energy. And then we talked about the killers of good energy. Killers of good energy, chronic inflammation. Well, we can check that box. If we don't have good regulation of our nervous system, and if we get stuck in that sympathetic nervous system dominance that we just explored, then we can check the box. Our cells are afraid of something. They've had to shut down the cell wall. They can no longer take up fuel they need. Inflammation is running in the body, so we can check the box. We can check the box for mitochondrial dysfunction because, again, the cell walls are closed. There's too much glucose. There's too much insulin. They can no longer take it up, and they're creating a cascade of down the line reactions to try and balance that. And third, we can check the box for oxidative stress. The immune system has come online because it says, holy smokes, this is DEFCON 5. There's all these master alarms going off. Something is wrong. It can't find what's wrong. And so it just kind of stays on. And if it stays on looking for a problem, then it can no longer do its job of scouring the body, neutralizing free radicals to reduce those oxidative stress and those damaging molecules. And so this idea of regulating our nervous system can quite literally kill good energy, all three checks. And so it's very, very important. And it can actually, like, I would take as far as say, like, could quite literally save your life. It could keep you from a path of waiting on one of those big 5 diseases: cancer, heart disease, diseases of the metabolic disorders, Alzheimer's, neurodegenerative diseases, all of these things. We can be headed on that path, or we can learn to regulate our nervous system, to stay in that place of peace and balance, to move back and know how to shift our body back. And that is on a path of chasing good health. So the key for you as someone, you're obviously here and into this idea of chasing good health, is to learn to master the switch. Learning and practicing the switch. And I have that in quotation marks because that's what I sort of language it for myself each day, to shift my body back into this parasympathetic rest, digest, harmonic state. I've got to be able to switch that. Life is going to deal us stress in every day, but how do we master the switch so that we can easily turn that down? So I'm going to give you now a few tips that you can use to easily and quite well move your body from this sympathetic dominant nervous system, this acute stress response system, back to, everything's fine. My body's harmonious, peace is restored. The first is 4-7-8 breath work. Works like a charm. You breathe 4 counts in, you hold for 7, and you exhale 8 counts through your mouth. And I like repeating this 4 to 5 times before I eat, throughout the day, at various intervals throughout the day. And if I'm trying to fall asleep and I can't, or I wake up at night and I can't get back to sleep. So there's an important thing. You'll notice I said, sorry, there's a plane flying over. I thought I was outside tonight because it's so nice. You'll notice that I said to do this before you are eating. When our body is in a sympathetic dominance, it's running that stress response system, and it's kind of like constantly doing that, then guess what it's not doing? Your body can't digest food well there in that state. It can't perform the detoxification and housekeeping functions that it needs. As we just talked about, inflammation runs high and it can't run that. The liver can't catch up with all the work that it needs to do. And so by just, even if you sit down to eat your meals, nobody needs to know you're doing it. You can just quite literally, while you're listening to each of your family members talk about their day or whatever you're doing at dinner, you can take that 4 count in. You can hold for 7, exhale for 8. This is one of the best ways that you can harness the power that you possess to move your body, to kind of break that loop and move the body back into the parasympathetic rest, repose, rest, digest mode. The next is humming. Believe it or not, humming is one of the most simple ways that we can activate the vagus nerve and improve our vagal tone. The vagus nerve starts in your brain and runs all the way down through your stomach. It connects. It is the gut-brain connection. And 75% of the parasympathetic nerve fibers are in this vagal nerve. So if you have good vagal tone, that simply means that you're able to kind of activate and tune into your vagus nerve and create action. And so humming is one of the best ways. Think of it as like almost strumming your vagus nerve. Also, of other note, when you are humming, you actually have better focus to your tasks. So if you are sitting doing your job, hum your favorite tune, and you'll notice that your focus is actually better. So kind of a double whammy there. Third switch you can make is walking in nature. Walking is involuntary for most of us, unless we're a child, right? We don't have to think about doing it. And in this way, it becomes very meditative. It's an easy way to calm the mind and recenter. And you can anchor your day to include, ideally, 3 short walks outdoors. And I want to talk about a few resources that you're going to have. But before I do that, I want to talk about, the resources that I'm going to share. There are a list of, 30 things that you can do to relax the parasympathetic nervous system. There's a sheet and a resource about creating a life vision for yourself, because when we know where we're going, we're not really falling for anything. And when we can kind of have that North Star, we're less likely to be kind of trapped in that rat running on the wheel experience, which really is kind of where we get to when we're caught in this sympathetic nervous system dominance. And then there's also a handout as an example to script your ideal day, because no one is coming to do that for you. No one's coming to do that for you. No one's going to plan your day in an ideal way that's suitable for you, that helps you create and maintain this balance of your nervous system. No one's going to determine what your life's vision should be. And I find that even with my private coaching clients, this is some of the hardest work that I teach them to do. And you would think that it would be so easy. Like, they're very willing to change their diet, their nutrition rhythm, to work on the gut microbiome. They're very willing to work on their metabolic health. They're very willing to work on these detoxification strategies. But when I ask them to sit down, spend 30 minutes saying like, what is my life's vision? What do I want for my life? What does my ideal day look like? We can't find the time, and it's not something that we do. And so I think it's really important to really give yourself that time to do that. And then to figure out the ideal day handout. Doesn't have to be your ideal day, but just that you give yourself some moment to say, what does my ideal day even look like? Like if I were drawing it out, what would that look like? Because as people chasing good health, we have to think of it like this. Yes, all of these activities that you can look at on the handout and the resources handout, you can download them straight from the Kajabi portal. Yes, designed to help you maintain when maybe you have a very hectic morning and you spill your coffee and a kid gets their backpack caught in the door and the zipper breaks, and then you're trying to rush one kid into school and then the next kid's late for school, and then you've got to come back really quickly and clean up the dishes but get on a Zoom call for work, and then, oh, you forgot to do something for your husband. And so there's just a crazy hectic morning. That's an acute situation or turn of events. We can use the breath work. We could take a short walk. We can move our body out of that and have a productive part of the day. But at some point, if you find yourself constantly in and sort of falling into the sympathetic nervous system dominance, then I think it is time to maybe look at a higher level and say, okay, what in my life today is creating this scenario for me to constantly be falling into and running in this mode? And what can I let go of, and what changes can I make? Because quite literally, your life depends on it. I mean, I just hopefully proved to you in this really short and I hope easy to understand presentation of like, your life depends on it. This body system that is housing your very being is going to be sending off a master alarm, master alarm, master alarm, master alarm if we constantly run in this sympathetic dominance and cortisol is continuing to be pumped into our system. And so it's no surprise when 10 out of 10, I'll say 10 out of 10 out of 10 of my private coaching clients run in sympathetic nervous system dominance. And I say to all 10, the first few weeks, all we're going to work on is like cooling off your system. Once your system cools off, everything else falls into place. Detoxification begins working again. We have better mental outlook. We have better mental acuity. We have better decision making. We can make better decisions. We can make decisions for the collective and not ourselves. When we're running in fight or flight and freeze up run, we can only think about ourselves. We have better decision making. We're more grounded. We can have a vision for our life, for our family, for our purpose. We can stay out of that. We can begin losing the middle-aged tube around our middle that just will not go away. All of these things, we can heal the gut microbiome, then we can really get to work. But it's interesting, 10 out of 10. I mean, I've been doing private coaching work for about 5 years, and I would say 10 out of 10 of people need to work on this. And so it's a really important topic. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this short talk. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them and would love to, answer whatever questions I could. If you have any feedback, let me know that as well. I can improve this for next time. But yeah, take it away. Any questions, or does anybody feel like they run in fight or flight? Have you felt that experience before? Yes. Yes, me too. I lived my life there from age, call it 44 to 48. I lived in this every day without fail. I lived there. So I can tell you that it is easy to do that. It's easy to get into that place. Any other questions you guys may have? Did you write down any questions or issues? You certainly don't have to have questions. I just want to make sure that was this helpful to understand? Could you understand and learn from this? Helpful to anybody? Okay, good. Jennifer, Daniela, any questions from you guys?
No, not from me. Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome. Okay, well, you guys are a quiet group. For once, I'm going to finish on time, but I hope you enjoyed this. And if you think of a question later, you can write into me. And as always, these sessions are recorded. All the resources that I referenced are in the Juice School portal, so you can download them, use them. There's actually a life stress test so that you can see like, wow, what sort of like stress level am I running at? And again, it's a data point. It doesn't tell the whole story. But when I looked through those life events on it's like the Holmes Rice scale, when I looked through them, I'd experienced 2 of the biggies this year. My mom passed away, and I transitioned my business from online making juice to teaching people juice. 2 big life events. That puts me at the high stress scale already. So, there again, that means, wow, I really need to devote a lot of time, energy, effort, attention this year to calming down that nervous system. And so I've been really working to do that. So just gives you some food for thought. Well, anyway, enjoy. And if you have questions, concerns, thoughts, let me know. Thank you so much, guys.